The likes of Google and Facebook have never paid for news. News media organizations do all the hard work. They source, verify and put out critical information, and digital platforms take all of it without paying a penny. It's nothing short of daylight robbery. But now tech giants are being made to pay for news in Australia, or so the plan is. This report tells you how.
The world is under lockdown. But newsrooms around the world are running around the clock. And people locked in their homes are consuming news in ever greater numbers. More and more consumers are moving online, demanding news from multiple sources.
In an unprecedented move.
And with that, revenues of global digital giants like Google and Facebook have ballooned. But they don't generate news. They're aggregators. They source news and make money off it, without giving a single penny to the media outfits that generate content. How can they be made to compensate? Countries like Spain and France have tried and failed. Now Australia is making the moves. The government wants to make tech companies pay for news content. The prize is big. Google nets nearly half of the online advertising spending, excluding classified ads in Australia. And Facebook claims another 25% of the pie. The shutdown in economic activity is bleeding news media companies. A collapse in advertising revenues is threatening grave consequences. Dozens of newspapers across the country have stopped printing during the pandemic. This has forced the Australian government to step in. Australia's competition watchdog has been tasked with formulating the rules. A mandatory code of conduct is on its way to make digital platforms pay news media outlets. The draft is set to be out by late July. And it will pave the way for fair compensation for journalistic content siphoned from news media.
It's time the tech titans were held to account and we had genuine competition. We have a level playing field, we have more transparency, and we get payment for original journalistic content. The rise of the digital platforms, and in particular Google and Facebook, have delivered real and significant benefits to consumers. But it's also been a period of great disruption. And it's called into question the adequacy of our existing regulatory frameworks and the viability of traditional media outlets.
Australia's move comes after the failure to negotiate a voluntary code. A code by which tech giants come forward on their own to pay traditional media. Not surprisingly, Google and Facebook say they are disappointed. They claim to have been working on a November deadline for the voluntary code. But Australia has made it clear that plan has been scrapped. Australia is determined to do what Europe couldn't. And it's taking a different approach too, relying on competition law rather than copyright law. While no particular amount has been specified thus far, Australian authorities have explicitly said it will be in millions of dollars. It's an example that India could do well to follow. Facebook's largest user base in the world is in India. It has over 240 million active users in the country, a million more than it does in the US. By next year, digital media revenues are set to surpass those of print. And that growth will be led by social media, claiming a third of all Indian digital revenues. More than ever, there is a need now to level the playing field. Bureau Report, WION World is One.